Two women loved the same man. That would be my mother-in-law, Ida, and I. We both loved her son, my husband, Paul. We could not have been more different than each other. She was born in 1920, a first-generation American born to Italian immigrant parents, and I, in 1957, to a family that joked we were Heinz 57 varieties when asked about our ethnic background. Paul was a long-awaited son, adopted when his parents were pushing 40. I was the fifth of 6 children born in 8 years to parents whose family was complete in their 20s. Ida had to leave school after 8th grade to work and contribute to the family, as well as to help care for younger siblings. I have 2 master's degrees. In fact, when I earned the first master's degree, Ida warned her son that he'd better continue his education, or else, as a more educated woman, I'd be likely to move on and leave him. Ida never drove a car. I got my license at age 16, as soon as I was eligible to take the driver's test. Ida would never question a doctor. She was brought up to be obedient to those in authority. I was raised to be assertive, especially in matters of health. When Paul and I became engaged, Ida happily said, "I always wanted a daughter." It was very kind, but I thought to myself, I already have one mother. I'm not sure I need another. It was a happy time for all of us, but after our wedding, she didn't go out of the house for a week, mourning the loss of her adored son. When the son of a dear friend of hers got engaged, she shared the news with Paul and I, stating, "Pat's engaged, but his fiancé is not Italian." Although she never said this to me, I'm guessing she'd said the same about me. Providing her with 3 beautiful granddaughters with good Italian names was definitely the beginning of bridging the gap. However, it wasn't all roses. Her suggestions on how to parent were met with the resistance of a new and somewhat insecure mom trying to find her way. She always bought too much stuff and gave us too much food. It made me wonder if she thought I couldn't provide, but ultimately, I grew to understand this was one way she showed her love. Food is central to the Italian culture. I really wanted to learn, but for the most part, Ida insisted she didn't have recipes. I remember the first time I made sauce and had them over. She was gracious, but let's face it, it wasn't great. I ended up going to a class to learn to make sauce, and it was taught by one of the Italian women of their neighborhood. Now there are a few cherished recipes in my recipe box in Ida's handwriting, mostly of the cookies that would be made at the holidays. Just before her last Thanksgiving on Earth, Ida showed me how to make pizzelles, and I still use her pizzelle iron today. Shortly after Ida had a heart attack, I was visiting her, and she dug out a box to show me Paul's adoption papers, which included information that had not previously been shared with him, such as the name he'd been given at birth. She was still needing to protect her son, but knew that we ought to know these papers existed. She trusted me to handle this sensitive information with care. When Paul's dad was dying, Ida could not bear to be with him at the hospital, and I didn't want to leave. It turns out that the fact we were opposites had some benefits. After he passed, I asked her if there was anything she needed, and she said, "Yes, I want you to do the eulogy." I had just finished telling her I'd do anything, so as much as it felt like a huge responsibility, I said yes. And the fact that she trusted me once again with something so important showed me how far our relationship had come over the last 24 years. I knew I was a trusted and beloved member of the family. In 2002, Ida was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. For her last 11 months, we knew she was dying. She told me how much she appreciated me and that I was doing a good job with the girls, acknowledging that her son didn't always step up. She made her final wishes clear to me, again, sparing her son from these difficult conversations. One of her wishes was that her final days not be spent in a hospital bed in the living room with people coming to visit. Eventually, hospice care said a hospital bed was needed, and I resisted trying to honor her wishes. Ultimately, I agreed it could be placed in the bedroom. On the last night of her life, I laid in a twin bed next to her and listened as she was clearly transitioning from this earth. I wrote the words I heard and cherished our last moments together. I began by sharing the ways we were different. Let me end with some of the ways we were the same. We were both hard workers and had deep faith. We both loved her son and valued family. I may have already had a mom, but Ida worked her way into my heart. And even though I wasn't Italian, I know I was in hers. Her loving spirit lives on today in the hearts of her son, her granddaughters, and me.